You're listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Nicholas Lewis. She's a trailblazing businesswoman, leader, philanthropist, and the widow of Reginald F. Lewis, the visionary leader who was the first African American to build $1 billion company. With unparalleled determination, Loida Lewis has not only excelled as a successful attorney, but also shaped a $1 billion empire. Following the untimely passing of her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, she took the helm of TLC Beatrice, carving her legacy as a successful business leader. Be inspired and learn from her as she shares her wisdom, the secrets to her success in both business, in love, and in life. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn. With your host, Miss Loida Lewis.
Welcome to the Loida Lewis Podcast. And today I have the pleasure of presenting to you an immigration attorney, whose Citizen Pinoy is so popular in the Filipino channel. But for those of you who have not known him through television, he is an immigration lawyer of 30 years. So here we have Attorney Michael Garfinkle. Welcome to the show, Attorney.
And thank you for having me. It is my honor and privilege to be on your show. So maraming salamat po for having me here. I'm waiting for the questions. I don't know what she's going to ask me, but I hope I have the answers.
Yes.
Your tanong, my sagot, as we say on my show.
Yes. So you see, for those of you who are not Filipino, what he said is that your question, my answer. So my first question is, how is it that you know so many Filipino words?
Asawa. And for all of you out there who do not speak Tagalog, the husbands or the wives, that means my wife is Filipina. So people say, how come you're so close to Filipinos? And I say, because I sleep with one every night. The same one. And so she has allowed me to have the ability to live with and experience Filipino culture. And what I've seen is Filipinos are all about family, being together. I think Filipinos, their idea of being alone is with 20 people. Everyone likes to get together, have parties. Family is very important to Filipinos out there. And it's what makes my profession as an immigration attorney so rewarding, because I know you were an immigration attorney or officer, wrote books yourself on it, but with immigration law, it's so positive, such good karma, because I am helping bringing families together. Some of them have been separated for many years because one is here out of status, tago ng tago. They haven't seen their family, their children for years. If I'm able to help them get their papeles or their legalization, that's so rewarding.
Okay. For those who do not know, tago means hide and hide, TNT. Okay. And so let's go straight to the question with what's happening now with this Trump administration. The latest bombshell was that he is going to deport all 430,000 migrants that came in the past 2 years since 2022. So can you deal about that recent pronouncement from the White House?
I think it is probably going to be a scare tactic. I just do not think it is feasible to deport 400,000 people. If you think about it, it is not just simply picking them up off the street and taking them to the airport. They have to go through removal proceedings. They have to be charged with whatever immigration violation they have that makes them deportable or removable. They have the chance to go in front of a judge. They have the ability to set forth what's called claims for relief. Imagine somebody has been in removal proceedings and they have a 20-year-old U.S. citizen child. Well, as soon as the child is 21, or they are married to a U.S. citizen. So it's going to take a lot of judges, a lot of courtrooms, and a lot of time to try to deport those 400,000. And in addition, Lloyd, I believe that there is a 3 million person backlog. I think what has to happen, if I can go off a little bit tangent on that, is that perhaps they need to get the terrorists and the gang members and the felons out of the country. But after that, I think it's time for Congress and the president to talk about some kind of comprehensive immigration reform, an amnesty program for those who have no crimes, whose only crime was wanting to have a better life for themselves and their family, have been here a long time. I don't know why Congress and the president can't come to some compromise like that. But in answer to your question again, I just don't think it's feasible to deport 400,000 people. In fact, long ago, I wrote a column on that there's not enough trains, planes, and automobiles to deport them.
Well, unfortunately, it's already happening. In fact, what I read is that initially, not because of this latest executive order, but around 20,000 or 2,000 Filipinos who were already in jail, convicted of a crime, were just sent out. Mm-hmm. And this latest one was a judge when, quote, gang members from, is it Venezuela?
Okay.
They were just sent out, and
Tren
the judge.
de Agua?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So my question now is, what do Filipinos who have friends who are TNT, meaning to say, tago ng tago, meaning illegal, what would you tell them? What happens if, by chance, they are caught by immigration? What would you see your best advice for them?
Okay, and this is not a plug for immigration attorneys. It is advice from the heart. It is if you have immigration issues or problems, and even if you're not yet facing a knock on the door, I would say you may want to consult with an immigration attorney who can evaluate your situation, see if there are possible avenues to legalize your status. And maybe there could be pagasa, that means hope for you, but you don't know unless you see an attorney. And if you are already caught, by all means, go see an attorney who can evaluate what kind of defenses you have. If you have, even if you're ordered deported, there are still grounds for appeal. And so it's not like suddenly picked up off the street and taken to the airport, unless you already have a removal order. I mean, a lot of those people, they were already ordered removed. They did not go. So yeah, they are. But if you've never been in removal proceedings, it is a long process, and you should see an attorney, I think, to advise you. What I'm also seeing, Loida, somebody just contacted me for a consultation. And what they were saying is, I want to apply for U.S. citizenship. I know I can do it myself, but I still want an attorney to handle it for me, because in this time of Trump, where it's not necessarily looking for ways to approve a case, the officers are almost like looking for ways to deny. And in today's time, if a person goes for citizenship, what the officers are doing are not just looking now at the citizenship application, they may be digging to see how you got your green card. Was everything proper? Were you approved by mistake? Did you conceal something? Was there fraud? So the whole green card gets brought up again.
Okay, but citizenship is the farthest from the minds of many of those watching now. So what you just heard, Attorney Garfinkle, is that if your papers are not correct, you don't have a green card, whatever situation you have, my advice also, being an immigration lawyer myself with Immigration and Naturalization Service, consult an attorney. Yeah. And please consult a real attorney who has done good work, because there are some attorneys who will just get your money and not produce. So for those who are watching, ask your neighbors, ask a Filipino or any foreigner who has become an American citizen, whose lawyer did you use? Is that a good advice?
Well, of course, I would say use me, because.
Yes.
But no, I am right. Of course, why would I not endorse myself?
No.
But truly, go see a reputable attorney. It doesn't have to be me. And what I'm also seeing, Loida, a new phenomenon is the Google immigration chat rooms. That's where people suddenly are getting their advices from. And I say
artificial intelligence.
Either artificial intelligence or just people commenting. Somebody posts a question, like a Reddit thing, and then people are doing their comments. In the old days, it was people would go to parties or cocktail parties, and friends or relatives would be offering advice, whether they knew the information or the laws or not. Now it's the Google chat rooms. You may not want to necessarily rely on a non-attorney offering life-altering advice. So if you are aware of an attorney in your area, before jumping and doing it yourself or wondering, go see an attorney.
Well, I do recommend, yes, watch the Filipino channel, Citizen Pinoy, but truly get an attorney if your papers are not correct.
Or even if they are correct. I don't mean to jump on you or talk over you. Even if they are correct or you're eligible, make sure that they are prepared and packaged properly. Because I have seen cases where a person was clearly eligible for the immigration benefit, but they didn't include all the documentation or they filled out the form wrong. And here you have someone clearly entitled and they were getting denied.
No, absolutely right. I already have a case where they filed by themselves and it was returned. So it delayed them for 7 months or 1 year. So yes, I know it is expensive. Citizen Pinoy or Attorney Garfinkle is not cheap, but it means you're staying in the United States. You can continue your work and you don't have to return to your home country, which was not good for you in the first place. That's why you were here.
Well, I don't guarantee results.
No,
After all,
absolutely.
attorneys are forbidden by state bar rules from guaranteeing results. And some people compare me to that L'Oreal hair color, expensive but worth it. But I try to do my best. I, of course, cannot guarantee results, but I guarantee I will work hard as I can, and do everything I can to help my clients achieve their American dream.
Could you just explain also the latest executive order based on an old law to deport enemy migrants or enemy people here in the United States? Can you just explain a little bit what that is?
What was it? It was a 1798 law.
1798,
That was just
three centuries right after the independence won by the U.S.
And Aliens Enemy Act or something like that. And I believe it was supposed to be in time of war for the president to be able to remove aliens who he considers to be enemies. And of course, those talk about the overthrow of the U.S. government and things like that. So he's using that now to get out some of these gang members like the Tren de Agua,
Venezuela,
the Venezuelan gangs, and some of the others. And there has now been a clash between the president and a federal judge, and it goes back and forth. Now, I'll just give you my view from 30,000 feet, because if you watch the news, whether it's the conservative or the progressive or liberal media, each one has its own slant. But when I hear, for example, some of the politicians speaking about these unelected federal judges, as though it's some kind of derogatory slur, but they also are in favor of the Constitution. Well, the Constitution specifically states that federal judges are not supposed to be elected, Article 3 judges, because they should not be influenced by, politics or voting a certain way because they're coming up for elections. So being an unelected federal judge is constitutional. That's what the Constitution calls for. I also think that perhaps that federal judge is saying, before we start throwing people out of the country under this 1798 law, the judiciary are charged with interpreting the law. That's what the judges are about. You have the Congress that makes the law and spends the money, the executive branch that enforces the laws, and then you have the judiciary that interprets the law. So I think what was going on is the judge says, before we immediately throw them out on this 1798 law, let's figure out and interpret it, whether it applies to this situation. But I think that what happened was the Trump administration started already flying the people out.
Yes, that's right. So there was a quarrel now between a federal judge and the administration of Trump. But can you just tell the audience, this is applying the recent executive order of deporting the 530,000 migrants that came in since 2022. based on a protective order. Which countries do that
I don't
apply?
remember the countries right now.
But it's South America.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
think it's-
Haiti. And
yes.
What had happened was during the Biden administration, they granted TPS, or temporary protected status, to people of certain countries and then flew them in. So now Trump
Haiti.
is just...
Haiti is one.
Haiti's one.
Venezuela too.
Right.
Yes.
I don't have the whole list of them, but as I'm talking, probably we can roll the screen of who's on that temporary protected status list. So what Trump is saying is that those members that the Biden administration let into the country, I'm now ending your temporary protected status. Remember, it's by the name temporary, and now you got to go back. I think what is also happening as between Trump and the Biden administration is that Biden had these various immigration policies and paroles and things like, and Trump is just saying, okay, what is it that Biden did? Let me do an executive order to reverse it.
Yes.
So that's pretty much whatever Biden did, whatever executive order Biden did, Trump is doing an executive order to cancel it.
Yes. In other words, there is a real philosophical difference between the previous administration, Joe Biden, and Trump administration, which is, what is America? That is really what is happening now. Biden says, America first, only Americans. And what does that mean? Make America great again means make America white again. I'm sorry to say that's my interpretation. Whereas Biden is the America of give me your downtrodden, your impoverished, Emma Lazarus with the Statue of Liberty. In fact, the Statue of Liberty was given by France. And the French people say, give me back the Statue of Liberty. In other words, there is truly a divide on what is America. America first, everyone else, or give me those who want to dream. And that's the American dream. And that's the Biden philosophy.
Well, yeah. For example, I am a child of immigrants. My parents were refugees from World War II. So they came here, and I was raised with the American dream. My parents were working hard. My father, 2 jobs. Education for the children was the most important thing for immigrant parents, and we come home from school, but it was do your homework and succeed and work hard. And I am proud and grateful for my immigrant roots from my parents, because it just taught me, that America truly is a land of opportunity. That my parents who come to the U.S. with pennies in their pocket and were able to provide for the family, and thankfully they were able to pay for my education. I was able to become an attorney. As a result of my being an attorney, I'm able to use my talents to help other people. So I believe a lot in the American dream. But as between Biden and Trump, you have to look at Trump's position that it polled very well. Immigration was his main issue that he thinks got him elected, and I just don't think he's going to let go of it.
No. There are 2 issues:
Okay.
immigration issue,
Right.
and the economy.
Sure.
That the price of egg, which was $1 per dozen, then is during the election was $12 a dozen. So
Okay.
in other words,
Okay.
2 issues. But what I want to say is that from your roots, where many of those listening are also children or grandchildren of immigrants or immigrant
I
themselves,
see that with my Filipino
family
clients. They're like that.
clients.
Yeah.
So tell us, when you said education, were you a class valedictorian in elementary school or in high school?
High school.
High school class valedictorian. In college?
Magna cum laude.
Magna cum laude
in
with honors.
college. Yeah, UCLA, and then
UCLA.
Dean's List at law school.
At law
as well.
school.
Yeah.
Okay, so he comes with very good heritage or educational.
Well, I studied hard. That's,
See that, please, for everybody
Yeah.
listening, tell your children you've got to study hard.
You got to study hard. If you're a natural genius, then power to you. But if you want to succeed in school, I say this to the kids out there: you have to study hard, and it usually is not found in an AI or app, because now that's what's going on now.
How about watching on their iPhone?
I know.
TikTok and things like that. So for my grandchildren, Leslie and Christina, when they were growing up, Mr. Lewis and I were very strict. No television Monday to Thursday. They've got to study. And for you, when you were growing up, did you watch TV?
We did.
But study first.
But well, remember, when I was a child, we had very few stations. We had like about 7 TV stations, and that was it. And usually it was my father who picked the channels, which was usually the news.
Also, obey your parents, okay?
Yeah.
Children who are growing up or those who are still, under your parents' protection, please, your parents really should be listened to because they are after your future.
Well, if I'm going to say something again to the young people out there, of course, young people think that they are smarter than their parents without realizing that life can be like a marathon. And while you may be at mile 5, your parents are already at mile 20. They've already gone to the area where you will soon be going. They've already done that trip. They know what to expect. So you should take advantage of their experience so they can already say or point out what to do, what to avoid. So you don't have to waste your time making mistakes because they can already put you on the right path. I don't know why young people think that parents who already have been there, you think your parent was never your age, didn't go through what you did? They did, but then they later matured. And so therefore, parents can be a wealth of information and benefit. And remember, most importantly, your parent is not out there to hurt you. They are there to make you better, make you strong, make you succeed. So I don't understand why they would not listen to them. It's just a rebellion. And you know what? There was a saying once, the older I got, the smarter my father became.
That's true.
Yeah.
But for those who are not in good relationship with the parents, then find somebody who's wise. Maybe a teacher. You will know by yourself who is good and who is bad. There's always a choice, light or darkness, positive or negative. So for those who are listening, really look into yourself and see which one appeals to your heart. Okay, so that's now. Back to immigration.
Oh, okay.
Can you just tell the 2 ways?
We're going all over. We're going holistic, kids advice, immigration. I hope you're finding all of it useful.
All right.
I am. And you know what? Look who I'm with now, a sagely person, and I'm listening to her and listening to what she has to advise. So thank you for the lesson from me.
Well, just a plug.
Okay.
I do have a book, How to Get a Green Card, up to the 13th edition. All right. But please tell us, what are the 2 ways to get a green card?
Well, there's several ways to get a green card, but the 2 main ways to get a green card. And by the way, is it okay if I plug my show?
Yeah, please.
Okay. How's that? I'm putting her on the spot. What can she say? No.
No.
Okay, so
it's a very good show. I myself watch it.
Well, I have on the Filipino channel for 20-something years, Citizen Pinoy. I also have a YouTube channel. It's called U.S. Immigration TV. And I put out YouTube. So I put out 5-minute videos on various topics, including the question you just asked. So I'm going to give you a live version or tape delayed version of what I have on my YouTube channel, U.S. Immigration TV. Make sure you spell it all out because I don't want you to go to some other person's website with a similar name. Okay. The 2 main ways to get a green card are either a family petition or an employer petition. Family petition, spouse, parent petitioning, brother and sister. Some of the petitions, especially if it's Filipino, can take anywhere up to 25 years. Another option is an employer petition. There's an employer in the U.S., financially stable, has a real job, and the alien or non-citizen is qualified for that job. The person can even be overseas. One of the popular ones I've come across, Loida, that a lot of Filipinos are taking advantage of is petitioning family members for an employment-based green card, because family can petition family for an employment-based green card, which takes about 4 years. Some of the jobs are, for example, you have an elderly parent and you have a niece back in the Philippines, petition the niece now to be a caregiver for your elderly parents. Or you're a nurse and you're making a lot of money, but you have to rush home to do the housework. Petition a family member from back home to be your housekeeper so you can work longer on your higher paying job.
Excellent.
So, right?
Did you hear that?
Are you,
that is
now you're thinking about that, right?
No, that's terrific. Terrific.
Okay.
Everybody who is listening, that is an excellent way to do the work that you're doing now with help from back home. And so you help two people, yourself and a relative back home who needs a good job.
And you're doing good for them because you're helping family.
That's
Remember,
right.
Filipinos, it's all about family. So those
Listen
are...
well, everyone, whether
Yeah.
you're Filipino or non-Filipino, that's a way to help yourself and help people back home.
And it absolutely is legal. You just put on the form that the employer and employee are related.
But get a lawyer,
Yeah.
please. It's very, very complicated. Don't think he's saying it easy, but it is complicated. Get a lawyer.
Yeah. But like I said, those are the two main ways. I mean, there's other ways that a person can apply for a green card if, for example, they're in deportation or removal. If they've been here for at least 10 years, it's called cancellation of removal. But family and employment are the two main ways.
Okay. So the other
Did I
one.
pass the test?
Yes,
'Cause you
very
wrote the book.
excellent.
Okay.
A1,
Okay.
A plus, A
Okay,
plus.
thank you. I'm going to put that on my refrigerator.
But the other one is for those who have the money, the millionaires or 500,000
No, you're talking about
entrepreneurship
the
green
gold
card.
card?
I'm not talking about the gold card of the president because that for
Okay.
me is so crass.
Okay.
But immigration law says if you are going to establish a business and you're employing at least 10 American citizens, that is a ground for an application. Can you just explain about that?
Oh, it's called the EB5, Employment-Based Fifth Preference. It's either you contribute $1 million or $500,000 in an economic depressed zone, hire 10 U.S. workers, keep that business going for at least 2 years, and then you can get the green card. Sometimes people pool their money into like what's called a regional center. A limited partnership is putting up a ski resort, so a bunch of people put in $500,000, but in one major project. So that's the EB5. Another one, for your business people, could be what is, I guess we will call it the EB1 or the L1. Lima 1, intra-company transferee visa. Briefly, it is that there is a company outside the U.S. and a person is an executive or a manager of the company outside the U.S. and then there is a branch, affiliate, or a subsidiary of the company in the U.S. So the company in the U.S. petitions that executive or manager to come to the U.S. They can first come on an L1 intercompany transferee visa, then perhaps maybe a year later be petitioned by the corporation for a green card. It's a little bit less than $1 million if that's an option too.
Wonderful.
For business.
There's also something like called fiancé's visa.
Oh.
That's also legitimate if you truly are a fiancé. Could you explain that?
Okay. A fiancé visa is the visa of love with lots of strings attached. The main things are that both have to be unmarried. So if you're saying, I'm getting my divorce soon, you cannot file until the marriages are terminated. So both are considered unmarried. The next thing is you have to have met each other in person within the past 2 years. None of this internet or Zoom love or having the picture on a keychain. So you meet in person, then then the American files the 129F petition here for the fiancé visa. Once it's approved, it gets sent over to the embassy where the fiancé or fiancé is interviewed. Just making sure that they are in love.
That it's legitimate. It's a legitimate romance.
And I have seen some fiancé denials in the sense that the American truly had their heart in the right place, but the one applying for the fiancé visa was maybe using them or whatever. But just, okay, in the normal sense, make sure you're truly in love. The person comes over to the U.S. on the K-1 fiancé visa, then they have 90 days to marry the American. I know there's that reality program, 90-day fiancé. Where did they get the name 98-day fiancé? Because you have 90 days
To get married.
And then once you get married, then they file for what's called adjustment of status or for the actual green card. And then they get a 2-year green card if they've been married less than 2 years, and they go back 2 years later. If they do not get married, and this is very important, I've encountered it a lot. If they do not get married, then that fiancé
Within 90 days.
Within 90, well, they if they don't get married within 90 days, it is still possible after the 90 days to still be able to marry that American and get the green card. Like, we had a fight, but we eventually reconciled. But it's that American. But the point is, if you do not marry the American who filed the K-1 petition, you're supposed to go back. And if you don't go back, you cannot get a green card through any other petition. In other words, the one and only way a fiancé can get a green card in America is through that one. So if you marry a different American, or you have a kid who's 21 years old and they petition you, you cannot apply for the green card in the U.S. You have to go back to your home country.
All right. Okay, there's one there. One who has an American citizen, 21 years old. So there are some of you who are here illegally, had a child here 21 years ago. Can you just explain about that?
Okay. In fact, my record in that situation is many, many years ago, I had a woman who came to me and she was 5 months pregnant. And I said, come back to me in 21 years, 4 months. Okay. And you know what? She did. That's
and
how.
21 years ago?
Well, yeah, came in. The kid was already 21. 21. Yeah, she gave birth. So that was my record. Usually they're coming in and the kid is 2 or 3 years old, and I say come back when the kid is 21. All right. So let us say you have a child who is 21 now, and if you're
born here,
they can be born here or naturalized. They, hypothetically. One of the kids married an American, got a green card, and eventually became a citizen. So now they're a citizen. But just as long as you have a kid who is now a U.S. citizen, they can be born here and they're 21, or they were able to obtain a green card and now they naturalize, and now you are the parent.
So the child must be over 21 years old.
Right. There's a couple of ages. Adopt before age 16. Step relationship
That's
is
another
18.
one.
That's
we'll talk about adoption. But this one is
so now,
child, 21 years old, U.S. citizen.
Okay. But I'd still say you may want to see an attorney. And in fact, there were a lot of citizen with parents. Remember DAPA, Deferred Action for Parents of Americans? That was like a DACA that Obama proposed, where if you have a child who's a U.S. citizen, you can get like work authorization, but then there was court injunctions that stopped. I was saying
that's another one.
But I was saying to them, all those people. Well, DACA is different. DAPA's gone. But I was saying, hey, all you parents who were eligible for DAPA, I bet those kids are now 21. Okay, now even if you have your child who's a citizen, there still may be issues in terms of eligibility to get a green card. And I'll explain why. One, how did you enter the U.S.? In order to be able to get a green card in America, you had to have been inspected by an immigration officer. So for those people who snuck across the border, or EWI, EWI, they may not be eligible to get a green card in America, even though they have a U.S. citizen child.
You have to go back to your country, in other words, to get an immigrant visa.
But thanks to Bill Clinton, no offense to him, but he signed a law in 1996 creating what is called a 10-year bar. If you're out of status in the U.S. for more than a year and you leave the U.S., you cannot come back for 10 years. But there is what's called a provisional waiver. If you have a spouse or parent who's a citizen or immigrant, you can waive the 10-year bar. Okay, so one item, again, I'm just pointing out that it's not just, I got easy. A citizen kid, bang, where's my green card? No. So one item is, did you enter the U.S. with inspection, and do you still have the entry visa? The other item is, what kind of visa did you enter on? For example, if the parent entered on the K visa and now they have a 21-year-old child, too bad, you got to go home. If a person...
You have to go home to get the immigration
visa, and you would need a provisional waiver so you're not stuck for 10 years.
Yes, okay.
The other one is entered as a crewman.
And you jump ship.
And again, even though you have a kid who's 21, you're not eligible to get a green card unless you have the benefit of a long ago law called 245I. That expired April 30, 2001. You had to have been petitioned before that date. But otherwise, if you're iwi or a crewman, you have to go back. Another one is maybe the J1, the exchange visitor, and you're subject to the 2-year. Another item, and again, what I'm just pointing out to you, even though you have a case that you think may be so simple and straightforward, I got a U.S. citizen kid. I'm just pointing out some of the icebergs if you're on the Titanic. Do you have some certain crimes that may make you inadmissible, an embezzlement of over $10,000? Do you have a previous deportation order? I've come across cases where long ago they applied for political asylum because they needed a work permit and they were ordered deported in their absence. Well, if they are petitioned and that deportation order pops up at the interview, under Trump, they literally can be taken from the interview and taken to the airport. So again, yes, having a U.S. That was a long answer to your short question. I forgive it, but I just wanted to give the full thing that it is not as simple as I got my kid, where's my green card? Make sure you have a clean case and you don't have those other type of issues.
In other words, it is really complicated. But what I'm saying is maybe you ask AI or whoever, your friend and this, but the best is to get an immigration attorney who is experienced and has years of practice, just like attorney Garfinkle.
Okay, thank you. I just love the practice of immigration law. So that's why I get sometimes animated about these things. It's like, no, don't do this, or watch out for that. Be careful. It's like a jungle cruise. Things can pop up.
Yes, that's right. And this is
okay.
And this is from someone who doesn't want his name known. Okay.
Oh, Mr. Anonymous, I hear about him all the time. He's everywhere.
All right. My brother was once an in-between status 15 years ago, which meant he overstayed a bit, waiting for a status to change from tourist to a working visa. He had working status here for 3 years, then he went back to the Philippines and has been living there ever since. He's been able to visit as a tourist in the U.S. with no problems, but for the last 10 years. But I'm worried with the immigration doing recently, he might get detained if they see one time he overstayed his record. What would you suggest? That he stay away from the United States until there's a new president, or he is safe to visit? That's the anonymous question.
Well, I need a little bit more information, but I'll just try to fill in the blanks. I feel like Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune, so I'm going to flip a couple of letters and vowels to try to fill in that particular item. If he was out of status for more than a year and he left and it's been more than 10 years, he's not subject to the 10-year bar. When he applied for the visitor visa, I don't know what information he put on the application, the DS-160. That could be an issue, because have you ever violated the terms of a visa? It would seem he would have.
Usually, it's how long have you been in the United States? How long did you? Yeah. When was your last visit?
Yeah.
And if it says more than 10 years, then there's no ban.
There's no 10-year bar ban, but the question is, did you ever violate the terms of a visa?
I see. Okay.
And that's so that could be an issue there. But if he has the tourist visa that was issued properly and no issues in there, I don't know what would come up now that would make him subject to questioning or inadmissibility, unless there was any kind of misrepresentation on the visitor visa application. And it was discovered, or here's another item for you guys. Even if you have that 10-year multiple tourist visa, each and every time you enter the U.S., you're under examination by the immigration officers for them to evaluate on whether this trip, are you going to go back, or are you coming here to go out of status? I remember one case. She had been in the U.S., she went back to the Philippines, and she returned to the U.S. maybe a month later as a visitor with 5 balikbayan boxes of clothing. And the officer said, well, how long are you going to be here? Oh, just 3 weeks. with all of this, it looked like what happened was she went back to pack all her life's belongings, and she was coming to, and so the officer said, "You're not going back." So they canceled her visa and sent her back. So,
Okay.
I mean, but again, everybody coming to the U.S., just make sure you're coming to abide by the terms of your particular visa. If you're coming to visit, don't work.
Right.
Okay.
And also don't bring all your stuff
No
from the
longanisa.
Philippines. So it's not.
No chicharron or longanisa,
Oh,
right?
that's true. That's
Right?
right. Okay.
Okay.
This is from Mimi S.
Okay.
If you had the power to instantly change one immigration law, what would that be?
What I would want to do is not necessarily change a law, but I would like to bring back a law or extend a law, Section 245I, because that's going to be relatively simple. Section 245I was a law that expired April 30, 2001, as I said before. What it did was allow people who are out of status, work without authorization, overstay their visa, entered the U.S. without inspection, or crewmen, a number of other violators, not fixed marriage or fraud, but a large number of people presently ineligible to be able to apply for their green card in the U.S. as long as they had been petitioned before April 30, 2001, by paying a $1,000 penalty. Now, I would say go ahead and raise the penalty to $10,000. People would gladly pay the $10,000 as opposed to having to go back to their home country. I mean, Trump is always looking for ways to raise money. I mean, like I said, people would gladly pay because it is a lot cheaper, the $10,000 penalty, than to pay for the provisional waiver, to be away to go back for maybe a month or so, and the uncertainty and the fear.
It's really
and
the
then,
uncertainty.
if you're Filipino, you're going to need at least 3 balikbayang boxes of pasulubong when you go home for the family, and every night buffet for the barangay. Right, so it's going to come. 10,000 is cheaper than all of that. But
So now it's the fee is 10,000.
No. That's my
more.
proposal.
That's
She
your
says
proposal.
that's my dream.
I see. Okay.
She said, "What would
Yes.
you like?" And I said, I'm not going to wish for big things like amnesty and
Yes,
so.
yes.
Just bring that, Trump administration, bring that one law back. And
Say it again, please.
It's called Section 245I. Just bring it back, raise the fee, and it would allow so many people who are here, and of course, eligibility to calm down the
That's
conservative.
assumed. That's assumed.
No, but the eligibility is that they were. The violation was just like overstay. It's not like you're going to be giving green cards to criminals.
Typical for many tourists.
So that's a real easy, quick thing to do.
Okay.
Go ahead,
So
next question.
for those who knows your congressman or senator, please tell them to bring back
245.
Section 245I.
Aye.
All
Yeah.
right, that's it. From Sal V. What's the most unforgettable or most unexpected immigration case you've ever handled? Oh, this is many, but give the most the one that you remember most.
One of the most memorable for me was I could almost make a teleserie out of it, where what had happened was an immigrant wife was petitioning her husband in the Philippines. And what had happened was she had been a dentist and she came down with like leukemia or something, and she was dying. And the husband applied like 8 or 9 times for a visitor visa to get over to see her, and denied. He even had ambassadors writing to the consuls. And
Because of the immigration visa
because
that
he was
the
under
wife
petition.
approved.
Yeah, eligibility for a visitor visa is that you have no intent to immigrate, but he was under petition. And the embassy just upholding the law. I mean, I don't blame them. That's the requirements. So they came to me. She was in a wheelchair, and I remember one eye was closed. She had the bandana. Her legs were thinner than my arm, and asking me, perhaps could I help
Get the
get the tourist visa for her. And I go, look, if I try again, it's going to get another denial. But I had seen that she'd already been an immigrant for 5 years. And I said, let's naturalize you. Now, back then in the early 90s, INS at the time, they were very,
Humane. They were humane and kind and
not saying that
compassionate.
they're humane now too, but it's more, everything now is with the emails and stuff like that. But back then you could pick up the phone. And what I wrote a letter to the Los Angeles district office, and I just explained, look, she is dying. The husband wants to get here. Can we do something about it? I get a call from the supervisor. She said, we read the letter. We were all busy with stuff. We all stopped and we were quiet. Yeah. Can you bring her in tomorrow? Okay. So bring her in. We do the interview. She passes. And I think that was like a Tuesday. Then they were saying, okay, the swearing in is Friday. Can you imagine today, 1 week to become a U.S. citizen? But
No.
But that's how they were. And I remember we went to the convention center, and the person from immigration who was leading the whole thing with thousands of people came down off the stage to her and, I just want to wish you the best of luck, and then swore her in. And he was saying, Michael, I kept her naturalization certificate back in my office. So we went back there, gave it to me. I was going to the Philippines that Sunday. And I faxed to the embassy and, was saying to them, you wouldn't give him a tourist visa. Now she's a citizen. And that made him immediately eligible for a green card, immediate relative. So I said, you wouldn't give him a tourist visa, give him immigrant visa now. And they go, yes, we can. And so they were scheduling it so I flew in, I'm carrying his citizenship, her naturalization. I get to, on a Sunday, I hand him the naturalization certificate. And that was the first time he saw what she looked like. Because she was vibrant and pretty when he saw her. Now the picture there with eye closed and stuff like that. And then he was able to go like Monday or Tuesday. The visa is issued the same day. He goes straight from the embassy to the airport, flies into LA, goes straight from LAX to the hospital, and is with her for 9 hours, and she passes away.
Oh my
but
God.
I got him in before she died, because if she died before, then the visa was revoked. But that
Oh
was
my God,
so...
nakakaiyak.
That was
That's so tearful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. All right. That's Attorney Garfinkle. Thank you. That's a great, successful, inspiring story from KCS. So you got it already, KCS.
But also, that will never happen in
No.
today's time. It's a
Sad.
different era, and I don't blame them. You have to be more strict with immigration laws and things like that. But back in the old days, when, like, for example, when you were an immigration officer, it was more relaxed.
Yes,
I'll give
more
you an
relaxed.
example, if I can give you one, if you remember these sort of things. There was the law was that if you're being petitioned as single by your parent, you're supposed to remain single. And there were times when people would come in as what we call married single. They would hide the fact that they're married. And then they applied for citizenship. And the marriage came out. They did the census. And back then, how the immigration officers were you married before you immigrated? Yes, sir. Well, here's the marriage contract. And the officer would say, look, I'm going to go get up and get myself a cup of coffee. If you are still here by the time I get back, I'm going to
Arrest
deny
you.
the case and put you in deportation.
Yes.
But if you're gone, I'm just going to close the file and put it on this shelf, meaning get out, and I'll leave you alone, right? That's how it was back in those old days. But like I said, that was the memorable case, but it's not going to happen. Because I don't want people calling me on Monday and say, can you naturalize me in 1 week?
Yes. No,
Okay.
no, be realistic. Okay, this is the last question from JP.
Okay. I'm
Aside-
enjoying myself, by the way. Thank you all for these questions. I can spend here all night. Loida, heck with your flights and
Yes.
I'm just okay.
Knock out, really? Okay. So here's one. Aside from being married to a Filipina, what are there any qualities that endears you to the Filipino people?
Well, first of all, it's their sense of family, and they love to be together and share. And it's just the loyalty with each other. I mean, you go on cruises, and then there's a Filipino crew, and then suddenly they're making special food for my asawa.
That's true.
Right?
They put kare-kare on that cruise ship.
Yeah.
Sinigang na ulo ng salmon.
I also find that they are very appreciative of my work. And again, I'm not trying to make it about me or my work. I'm just saying my experiences with the Filipinos, that they become family. I treat them almost like the family. I look at this, the lady with the cancer, how it still sticks in my mind, but they treat me like family. I like to treat my clients like family. I truly enjoy doing immigration work, for Filipinos, well, all nationalities, but they're very, very appreciative.
Yes,
And that's what I like about them a lot.
Very good, very good. And then, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received? Either legal or personal. That's from Mel O.
Geez, that's a hard one.
Just one.
I'd have to say it's my wife, and it's shut up.
He is so honest.
No,
Everybody.
I'm joking.
He's a perfect
You don't have to talk
husband
all
of
the
a
time,
Filipino
Michael.
women.
No. I'm just trying to think. The best advice I've received, it was kind of like I've received advice all around, but it was almost like whether it was my wife or my parents, in that, don't let anything or anyone hold you back. Don't let anyone put you down, that you listen to them. Just work hard and achieve. I mean, that's what motivated me.
Okay.
Especially when people maybe would put me down. It just made me work harder. Success is the best revenge. Maybe that's the best advice.
Success is the best revenge. Did you hear
That's the
that?
best advice. See,
People will always put you down. They're jealous. They're full of envy. So why listen to them? And see, Attorney Garfinkle, very successful because he didn't listen to the negativity. Why would you listen to allow vampires in your mind from other people? More or less. So just be successful, because success is the best revenge.
yeah.
Yes? Yeah. Okay. Very good. From Cherish H. Is it possible to petition a household worker who has been employed by me for 20 years
Okay.
and she has no green card?
The answer, well, that's why she wanted to be sponsored a petition. The answer is maybe, and here's why I say maybe. Yes, a person can petition a housekeeper. The issue I would have to evaluate, if that housekeeper is in the U.S. and out of status, then they may have issues in connection with their ability to apply for a green card in the U.S., and then they may have to go back to the Philippines or whatever, and they could be subject to the 10-year bar. If Trump brought back Section 245I, then she could pay money and be here, but that's not yet the law. So it is possible, but I'd be concerned about her ability to adjust status.
All right. Okay. Now, this is a personal question. I
Okay.
hope you don't mind. We hear the attorney talk about his Filipino wife.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're all interested. How did you meet? And who fell in love first?
Do you want the answer my wife wants me to give, or the or no? I'm just joking. I am joking totally. I will. I love my wife. She's wonderful, and truly, she is the reason for my success. Behind every successful man is a Filipino wife, no matter what. I mean, and I truly believe that she is the wind beneath my wings. And I am saying that seriously. Now, how we met is I was a partner at a large law firm, and she was working in human resources, and she recruited me for her husband. And so that's how we met. We met at that law firm. And then later on, I decided to open up my own law firm in 1991, and she was working somewhere else at that time, but she quit the job and came with me, and ever since 1991, we've been working together. She's the office
She was
manager.
single when you met her.
Yes. Better have been. Okay.
No.
Yeah, she was
Because you
single.
said
Yeah, she was single.
She recruited you for the law firm.
No, she recruited me for her husband.
To be her
I was
husband.
already at the law firm. I was a partner at the law firm. She was in human resources, and she recruited me to be her husband. And I said yes.
He is funny.
Okay.
But anyway, that's how they met.
Yeah.
And so she inspired you to establish your own law firm. At that time, what were you already an immigration lawyer?
No, at that time, what happened was I have practiced other areas of law, corporate real estate, business, personal injury, contracts, and litigation. And then I transitioned over to immigration, and I just love it so much more because, let's say in contracts or litigation, it's I sue you, you sue me, one side against the other, and victory is how much you can take advantage of the other side. With immigration, victory is helping a person achieve their American dream, helping them reunite with their family. And I don't look at my relationship with Homeland Security, USCIS, or whatever, as adversarial. Instead, I have the attitude, and I tell them, the officers, many times, I understand it is my job first to demonstrate to you my client's eligibility. And if I do that, then you will approve my case. And they go, yes, that's right. Isn't that it? If I prove my eligibility, you as an officer would approve the case. So, but with my wife, yes, she was the one who really encouraged me. And I give her that credit. All credit's due. She's been extremely supportive, as any Filipino wife would be. And
right.
and also works very hard. I joke and I say, you are such a lucky woman. I let you work. Other men would want you as a housewife. But again, she just loves to work. She works longer than me.
Yes.
She is the reason for my success.
The wind between his sails.
Beneath my wings.
Beneath his wings. Yes, the wind beneath his wings.
Yes.
All right, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, our exceptionally inspiring and effective immigration lawyer, Attorney Garfinkle. So, this is the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let us live, love, laugh, and learn together. Thank you.
The Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Lewis, is produced by the creators of Over a Glass or Two, Jesse and JV, executive produced by Laura Nicholas Olace. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for a chance to be featured on a future episode. Have a question for Miss Loida? Just email us on askloidalewis@gmail.com. Your question might make its way to a future episode. Subscribe on all major platforms to never miss a beat. Thank you for listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together